podcast people. This is estate planning attorney Leslie Marenco bringing you another episode of Having Fun with Death and Taxes. Today, I'm joined by another esteemed colleague, estate planning tax attorney extraordinaire, Ivan Gomez. Ivan, please introduce yourself to our podcast audience.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time you listen to the podcast. But thank you so much, very much.
This is worldwide, Ivan.
Worldwide?
Worldwide.
Oh, okay.
We had like 2 people in India somehow listen to this. It's so worldwide.
Perfect. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. And thank you so much for the kind words. You know, the esteemed.
Esteemed?
Yeah, I'm telling you.
What?
I'm impressed.
You are.
I'm impressed. Thank
esteemed.
you.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much.
I mean, Ivan is one of the people for sure in the last, I've had this firm 10 years. I've been an attorney 15 years. One of the people I used to harass constantly. I mean, I used to call you all the time. Sure. Gomez, you like, tell me what you think about this. You know, Gomez, you know, maybe.
But you're already the expert now, so you don't have to go ahead and come after me anymore.
Man, Ivan, this is one of those, I'm sure you agree, one of these areas of law that claiming expertise is a fool's errand.
Yeah,
it changes constantly. There's a lot of nuance, I trash on this podcast quite a bit. Door lawyers that play around in our space, right?
Sure,
that think, oh, look, I could just put, Abuelita's name on this will and who cares? I'll charge a little bit of money and this is bullshit. And you do not realize the traps that lie around every corner in estate planning law.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think some of the worst wills and things like that are done by your real estate attorney or
100%.
PI attorney or something like that. It doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely. You know? And you know something, not to get off topic here because I can bash these lawyers all day. I actually say that they are much more dangerous than the LegalZooms or the ChatGPT wills, I guess, that are happening. Why? Because if you're a consumer, a civilian, and you don't know the difference, you kind of know when you go on ChatGPT and it prints a will for you that you may not get away with that shit, right? Like you're cutting corners.
Right.
But when you go to your real estate lawyer and they go, of course I could do your will and trust, right? Sure. You actually think that person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I promise you they probably don't. Sure. No offense, but I'm going to offend you.
Yeah, because you're going to say, hey, he's an attorney. He's a lawyer. What else do you need? He's a lawyer. He has expertise in all areas.
Exactly. So I spend quite a bit of time bashing other lawyers that don't do what we do on this podcast. Yes. I really do. Maybe it's gotten out of hand.
Well, no, I do the same thing. I look at some of their documents and then my first thing is, oh my God. I wouldn't have done this. But, it's your call.
Oh, man.
And then what usually happens a lot to me is a client comes with one of those wills or trusts prepared by a non-expert, and they want me to just change the name of the trustee.
Right.
And then I say, no. I have to change the whole document, not just the name of the trustee.
Yes, amending other people's man.
You're inheriting all the problems.
That's right.
Yeah, I never
because it's like hot potato.
Exactly.
The last one that, did it is the idiot that's getting sued. The subpoena's going to you.
Exactly.
The depot that you're going to sit in for 8 hours about that wasn't mine.
And from a pure economic point of view, you just spent, let's say, 1 hour to change the name of the trustee, and now you have responsibility for the whole case.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense. So I make a rule. I go, no, it's either I can amend my document and charge you 1 hour, but I won't amend somebody else's.
Sure.
So that's just my stand.
100%. Side note, practice note for you guys out there, for you lawyers listening to us out there. So today we're going to be talking about the estate of Joan Rivers. Very different than, I know you're probably a very loyal, dedicated listener of this podcast. Yes. So very different than the other episodes I've had, because most episodes we are dealing with very contentious, acrimonious, scandalous litigation, right? Like James Brown and his 100 kids, or people coming out of the woodwork in Prince's estate saying that's my daddy and everything else, right? But here we don't have any of these acrimonious, scandalous facts. This is going to be a more intellectual podcast, guys. So if you were here for the good gossip, this isn't going to be it. We're going to have a very cool tax conversation today. I'm going to break down a little bit about
But
her
it
estate.
still will be exciting.
Very exciting stuff. I mean, if you're an estate planning lawyer, you might find this to be very exciting. Maybe
That's true.
everyone else.
You're right. I find estate planning and tax
we find
really
this exciting.
Yeah, really exciting. But
You
most
know,
people go, oh my God,
most
I
people
can't believe it.
Yeah, most other people do not
Sure.
get off on arguing the difference between residency and domiciliary.
Correct.
We do. But I'll give you a little bit of background here.
Sure.
Joan died in 2014 after complications of a procedure that she thought was going to be, not that big of a deal on her vocal cords. So as we always say, I'm not Walter Mercado. I don't know when you're going to die, what the exemption is going to be when you do, if I could figure out all of that. So even poor Joan Rivers, with probably the best doctors that there are, something happened and she passed away. Her estate was estimated at $150 million. I will admit something right now in this podcast. I don't even know what she really did for a living. I know she has some comedy, some stand-up.
Sure.
There are clips on YouTube.
Right.
Other than that, I'm sure she had a very fruitful career to make all of this money.
I'm sure, yeah.
She had one child and one grandchild. So right there, half of the drama's gone, right? We don't got 100 kids. We don't got, surviving spouses claiming anything. We just have one daughter and one grandchild. And she had what seems like a really well thought out, lovely estate plan. She even left stuff to her dogs. There's a joke that she is very well known for, which I thought was very funny, actually very cute. Don't make friends with your dogs. Those sons of bitches will die ahead of you and will cause you so much grief, which is very sweet. But she actually died first, and her floofy was taken care of in the trust. There was money left to take care of the pets in the trust. So very well planned for estate. Again, very different than what we're usually talking about on this podcast. So she had it's like a very standard base estate plan. And her actual name was Joan Rosenberg. I actually didn't know that. No. The last amendment and restatement that she signed was in 2011. So only a couple years before she died, right? So it's not like anything was, old or out of date. And she left everything to her daughter, some charitable organizations, even some employees that were with her for a long time. So nothing crazy going on there, right? We're so far so good.
So far so good.
So far so good. No insanity.
Well,
no insanity.
I mean, I know I've heard about Joan Rivers. I have a couple of years on you.
A few.
Just
only
a few.
Only a few.
And I only remember that from my parents would tell me about Joan Rivers.
Yes, your parents would tell you.
Okay,
she was a great comedian.
A great comedian. Yes, she was a great
I'm
comedian.
assuming to make
She was
this
funny, kind of somewhat of a slapstick kind of comedian.
Okay.
I thought. A little bit kind of like in your face kind of comedian.
Did your parents ever tell you, did she have like a show or was it only stand up? Was this like we take the show on the road? Was this TV?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't remember that.
And I don't watch a lot of television until you die.
She was also for a long time in Hollywood Squares, where they had the squares and you had different, I don't know if you remember that either.
Is this like a game show?
Yeah, sort of like a game show. They would have different, it had like 3 levels, and then there was all these actors in those, okay? And these are not the greatest actors, but so they would have them in there and they would focus and ask them questions, and then the audience would play with them. It was called Hollywood Squares.
She wasn't the host?
She was
in a square.
In a square. And
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah,
and is this like a permanent square? Is this always your square for the most part?
Sometimes they gave you, I mean, if you were there long enough, you would have the square, you would keep it. But sometimes they would alternate. It was kind of interesting.
I didn't know this. Okay, a little bit of pop culture today, guys.
Exactly. That's what I heard.
This is what your parents told you.
My parents told me.
That's what your parents told you. I understand.
Exactly.
I understand.
And then but it also comes, you said about the surgery.
Yeah.
It was a minor procedure, but I always tell my clients, like, because you figure it's a minor procedure, it's not going to be a big deal, correct? But I always tell my clients, the only thing you need to pass away is to be alive. Everything else, it's like luck of the draw.
Truth.
Okay?
That is facts.
And you could be 20, 50, or 100.
Right?
So it doesn't matter.
A lot of money, a little money.
A lot of
Hialeah. Doctor or, fancy New York City, doctor, and the results may be the same.
Yeah,
you may not wake
exactly.
up from the.
You may not wake up.
You know, they always say this, like there's a certain percentage of people that will never wake up from anesthesia. Obviously, it's a very small percentage, or
Sure,
you know,
of course.
but there is just. It's a fact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like certain percentage of people, we're going to stop your heart and keep whatever going with,
exactly.
and you will just not wake up, and it's the cost of what we need to do in modern medicine.
Yeah, and then in modern medicine, they usually give you that caveat. It's one of those long. Consent forms you don't understand,
like 55
and then
pages in the hospital.
And by the way, you could die. From this procedure.
Yes,
Small chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, of course, I'm sure you're wondering. So, Leslie, why are we talking about the Joan Rivers estate? There's no fighting. There's no anything. And really, this estate comes down to the difference between residency and domiciliary, which we're going to get into a lot. Right? The big thing here was that her will and trust decided to say, or what is it? Talk out of both sides of your mouth,
Sure.
It basically claimed, period, I am a resident of New York. I've always been. I'm a native New Yorker.
Sure.
I've always been a resident of New York. I love New York. Everything's wonderful in New York. But I am domiciled in California. And just, it opens up with that. Like I, Joan Rivers of sound mind and whatever full heart, resident of New York, but domiciled in California.
Sure.
And then goes on to talk about family and distributions and right? So immediately you see where we're going with this, of course.
Sure.
Other people might read that and be like, let's move on to the good stuff or something. But immediately to us estate planning attorneys, we go, someone thinks they're smarter than the average bear around here, right? So let's start with, because we're not talking to generally other estate planning attorneys on this podcast. Let's, for the wonderful audience, what is domiciliary? What is it? Explain it like we're 5 years old.
Okay.
What is domiciliary?
I'm going to focus from a federal point of view, but also take it from an estate point of view.
Yeah.
Okay. But generally, if you're domiciled in a particular, from a federal point, if you're domiciled, you're in a particular place with the intent to remain there permanently. Okay.
Right.
And you could be, and that's usually from an estate tax, from a federal point of view, is usually talking about transfer taxes, estate gift taxes, generation skipping tax.
Right.
Okay. And you also have residency, which from a federal point focuses on income tax.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, from a state, one of the states of the United States, California or New York, it's something similar. Are you there on a permanent basis with the intent to be there?
Right.
Okay. And or are you there, just temporary? And it's possible for you to be, in theory, a resident of a place and then be domiciled in some other place. So it could be difficult. It's possible. It's quite difficult to go ahead and sometimes plan.
And quite difficult to prove. When you...
So usually from a federal point of view, and it's also been used in different states, the concept of domiciliary is really a facts and circumstances, because who's going to be able to prove that I was there physically with the intent to be there, especially the intent? I mean, I can tell when someone is physically in a place, but it's theoretically possible for you to be domiciled in a place and pass away some other place, but be domiciled. So it's a facts and circumstances. So you have to go and look at different factors. For example, where were they living? Where was their family living? Where did they vote? Okay. Mm-hmm. Where do they have their cars? Do they have a house? Are they leasing? So all those are different factors. And then at the end, the taxing authority will go ahead and make a determination. Okay.
And I think it's also interesting for people to note. Usually, my old boss used to say, domiciliary is very sticky. When New York has their, for example, New York, their clause in you, and all of a sudden you decide to move to Miami or move to Florida, right? And now you're like, no, I live in Florida now. I'm domiciled in Florida, I'm resident of Florida. You just shout this from the mountaintops.
Sure.
But you're always in New York. don't think New York's just going to take your word
Right.
for it. You need to prove.
Sure.
The presumption is still, you
Yeah.
belong to me, New York.
Exactly.
We love the Big Apple. Big Apple loves you. You're not going
Exactly.
anywhere. You got to go then when you get that letter in the mail saying, where's your tax return, sir? You know, like on the income tax side, you know, then you got to go, no, wait a minute. Here's all the ways I'm not any longer a resident of New York, right? I mean, so the presumption is against you got to prove.
You have to prove
You
the
gotta prove
contrary.
things.
Yeah,
This is
especially
not-
if you've been living in New York, okay, filing state income tax returns, and now you're taking the position I'm
And
no
also
longer.
there's no more income tax
No,
return.
exactly.
Surprise!
There's no more
Just
income tax.
like,
I'm now in
poof,
Florida.
you're gone.
So they're gonna say, okay, prove it.
Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned that she said in her document, her will and trust, hey, I'm domiciliary of California. Well, as I told you, one of my favorite lines is, you can call a cow, okay, a horse, but he's not going to run in Hialeah, okay? So you have to go ahead and be able to prove some of those facts.
He's
You
not
just
going to
can't
win
say-
you the grand
He's
prize
not
of
gonna,
the Kentucky
yeah,
Derby.
he's not going to win the Kentucky Derby. He's not
He's
going to.
still a cow.
He's still a cow. Okay. Now, attorneys are notorious for speaking out of both sides of their mouth, and they'll say whatever they need to say.
I mean,
okay, because that's your
yes,
job. Your
that's
job is to represent truthfully. That's our job.
That is our job.
Yeah, and if you can make a credible argument that the person is domiciled in a particular place, then you pick some of those facts. But it's really that. It's you gotta pick some of those facts, and hopefully it'll go your way, and see what happens.
And in this case, the reason we're so concerned with domiciliary, believe it or not, because I think just the general public, right? Always, you hear New York, you hear California, and these are two very high tax states, right? Everybody's trying to leave New York to come to Florida, no more income tax and all this BS. But actually, on the estate side, New York still had a state inheritance tax, and California had, done away with it since 2005. So the difference here in where Joan was domiciled was going to be a factor of over $25 million.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of attorney's fees. $25 million is a lot of litigation you could buy yourself against, the New York taxing authority to try to prove one way or the other that to get away with what you're looking for.
Exactly.
So, we talk out of both sides of our mouth for good reason. 25 million good reasons.
25 million
to make the cow look like a horse.
Of course, absolutely, which is okay. Yeah.
I mean, maybe you give it
I've been on
strict
both
diet,
sides of those. You give it a strict diet.
Maybe you get it some
Okay.
big shoes or something so it's taller. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Like, how do we make a cow look like a horse?
Absolutely.
But here we go.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking about state estate taxes or state inheritance tax, which are also different, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, here in Florida, because we are Florida attorneys, we do not play New York attorneys on TV or anything. We are only dealing with the federal side.
Sure.
So we are not usually worried about what is the cliff, or some states have really quirky, up to this amount, there's nothing. And then after this amount, it's the waterfall, as they say, right? Like all of a sudden you owe a shit ton of money, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So,
and it's also important to note that you have the federal estate tax, and you also have the state estate tax. So you're talking about different, and in our example is going to be fighting between California and New York.
Right. We're not even talking about
what
the IRS said about this whole thing,
right.
Or what planning was done beforehand. I'm assuming there's a lot of planning done beforehand, because there's no mention of any estate tax fiasco litigation or anything
IRS.
the way there is in like the Anna Nicole Smith estate or the Michael Jackson estate or anything like that. So I have a feeling there was a lot of stuff done behind the scenes over the course of her life that alleviated, or some planning was done, of course, with insurance, with whatever it is, right? That everybody knew what the tax bill was going to be, nobody on the federal side, and they planned for it. It seems, because there's literally no mention whatsoever of any drama on the federal side. It was really this, let's try to be cute and avoid New York inheritance tax. So, and I know that we are very jaded, South Florida, worse, Miami, lawyers, right, where we see maybe possibly the worst sides of certain people. It's a little cultural. Our South American clients are special.
Sure.
They come from certain places where they get away with a lot, and they come here and they also try to get away with a lot, right? So
course.
I think we are jaded in general. I mean, we're the fraud capital of the U.S. down here, So, but there's a lot of commentary actually about this estate of why it's very possible that there were other non-nefarious reasons why they put these terms in the trust, these statements in the trust. One of which is, hey, the types of assets that were in each state were going to be very different in the probate proceeding. Any type of probate that had to happen, which seems a little bit of a wink because this trust was very well funded and it doesn't seem like much probate was ever going to be happening administration in any of these states. But they did mention how hey, if you're domiciled in New York, it's much more complicated probate than California. That's why we want to be domiciled in New York. Domiciled in California. They also said something to the effect of the penthouse co-op. Okay. Penthouse was actually a co-op.
Yeah, sure.
And it's an intangible.
Oh, okay.
And so easy to transfer that in California. Intangible property, personal property, that would have been like some silly summary court order or something. Whereas, of course, New York has like co-ops, so it has its own process or something. So there was a lot of commentary about don't be so mal pensado, Ivan.
Right.
There were other reasons. They had nothing to do with being slick and trying to avoid $26 million in taxes.
Yeah, you're right. But it's funny because you mentioned about Miami. The other day I went to a local restaurant and it was sort of like a restaurant cafe kind of bar kind of thing. And it was nice. They had a big poster and it said, Miami, a sunny place with a lot of shady people.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I thought it was
We're not even hiding it anymore.
We're not even hiding it anymore. Yeah. So, there could have been different reasons why.
There could have been. Yeah. Our brain just immediately goes to sure. Yeah. Sure. I got it. I understand
and especially, you mentioned in South Florida, they have people from South America. And over there, I hate to make a general statement, but they'll have most of but I'll say they'll have it's common for them to have several sets of books. The books for the department or their equivalent to IRS or Department of Revenue, the books for the bank.
There are.
Okay.
Yes.
Books for the bank.
Those
and then
have
the real
a different
books.
basis.
They have
Those have slightly different accounting normalities. They tell you this with straight face.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
When you look at them
and it's perfectly legit to go ahead and do that.
Look on your face. They have they tell you with a very straight face that, there's different ways to do accountings. Of course, fiduciary accountings are different than normal business accountings. And they will make you think that you're the one that does not understand the local culture where they come from. And I'm like, this is great. This is fantastic.
Yeah. Exactly.
And as my litigation department likes to say, all of this is to be litigated.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all to be litigated.
All of this is to be litigated.
There could have been some various reasons why sometimes state law would give you certain rights, that you would have to be a resident or a domiciliary of in order to enjoy those rights. So we don't know. Let's assume that she's doing something on a legit basis.
And the conflict of law issue is eternally complicated, right? I was reading something the other day actually about is it Jimmy Buffett that died?
Yeah,
the wife is surviving spouse is suing the trustee.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. Yeah.
And she filed something, I believe in California, and I believe trustee filed all of his shit against her here in Palm Beach, right? And I was kind of like, I had one of the law clerks starting to look this up. I'm sure they did. I haven't read it because I was like, this is super interesting. This guy's filing stuff over here. She's filing stuff over there. What's going on here? Where's jurisdiction actually going to be of this case?
Exactly.
Right?
And then you have a whole technical area of law on conflicts of interest, conflicts of law.
Yes.
And then which law is the one that applies.
Right.
Okay.
And
so that's another.
And you could theoretically choose. I want the law of Idaho to apply to my contract, my trust, which is, also mind-blowing to civilians out there of like, what are you talking about? But yes, it could become even a third layer of complication.
Sure.
Right? So I don't believe this Jimmy Buffett thing has been decided in the least. That was literally over the summer. And as we know, litigation moves at a less than snail's pace, like this is all to be, we lawyers have a lot of research and things to do, and it takes 6 months to get a hearing, and it's all just the way it works. So I don't think we're going to get an answer on that anytime soon, but you're right. There's many reasons why, other than the trying to make the cow look like a horse, that we want jurisdiction in a certain place, especially the administration. That is true. That is true. I'm not buying. I Judge Marenco don't. I'm a very jaded, cynical attorney.
I agree. Well, I have to go ahead. Yeah, my background, I used to be an IRS attorney.
I know.
For several years. So I tend to be very jaded too. I don't want to say pro-government, but But I would look at some of the things that the taxpayers did. So I kind of question a lot of times when a client tells me something. Oh yeah, right, and you believe that? Give me a break.
Sí. Okay. Solamente te cree tu mamá.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Absolutely. No.
Exactly.
And to be clear, I don't think either of us are very pro-government in any way, right? We are here to find what is the right way to plan things so that it doesn't look ridiculous when we want to take the positions that we want to take, right?
You have to set up.
That's what we're doing.
Exactly. It's a lot better. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you could either do two things. You could either, at the end, just try to wing it and go before the authority with whatever the facts are, or really try to set up facts that set up your position. So when you go to a taxing authority, you're in a much better position. You say, okay, I thought about this, and I,
you
like the same thing.
You need to know the rules of the game so that you could play the game, guys, right?
Exactly.
And so we are the ones that know the rules of the game.
Exactly.
So when we have a client come to us with just like shenanigans, when I'm rolling my eyes at you, it's not that I'm like, pro you pay taxes or pro IRS or no, I'm going, that's not how we do this. We gotta, there are ways to do this that are much more legitimate.
Sure.
And there are real planning strategies that we need to employ that isn't the bullshit you're trying to do, client. Like that shit's not gonna fly. It's just not going to fly.
Yeah.
If you're one of my darling New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania clients that moved down here and the family is still up north, the business is still up north because the wife and kids only came down here for, a few months in the winter and whatever, a month in the summer. And the car insurance. Oh, I love that.
Sure.
They're driving around with cars and apparently insurance in New York. It's like dirt cheap for cars. But, here in Miami, it's just wild, right?
So you say...
they're like, no, their car insurance is literally still in New York, right? You start tallying up the totality of the circumstances.
Exactly.
And it doesn't look good. It doesn't smell right, guys. Like, we need to do this in another way. We need to show you... Our job is to basically assess risk all the time, right?
That's
and how can I move the needle from this side, where it looks bad, to slightly more this side.
More believable.
More reasonable.
Reasonable.
More, what is it? Pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered.
That's another one of my favorite
We have all the animal sayings today, Ivan.
Yes.
Pigs, hogs, horses. That's going to be the name of this podcast. Cows, that's going to be, what do they have in common?
Yes, exactly.
So I thought this is, there are legitimate, and we absolutely are not pro anything other than our client. But our client needs to understand that there's reasons why you got to do things a certain way. There's reasons why you pay us the big bucks.
Right.
The big bucks.
It's okay. But I think it makes sense from a regular taxpayer or a client point of view. It makes sense to spend a little bit of money now and avoid some of these problems. If you don't take any of, if you just kind of
on the estate tax, realm.
Sure.
man, every dollar you pay us like pays off in massive dividends because the tax
absolutely.
is so high.
So high.
Right? So
Yeah, so
yeah,
high.
don't cry when you have to pay me $100,000 if I'm saving you millions of dollars. Like shut
Exactly.
up. Like
Exactly.
I once did a video that I don't believe has been published by my marketing director.
Okay.
That I named it, and he vetoed me because
Okay.
I am a very authentic person.
Okay.
You know me for a
Yeah,
very
of
long
course,
time.
yeah.
The way that I talk is the way that I talk. The way I describe things is kind of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And so I once made a video called "Why Your Family's Gonna Think You're an Idiot," right? Because someone called the office, $50 million estate, was told by another estate planning attorney that refers me a lot of work. Saying you really got to talk to Leslie, you have an estate tax problem, there's, stuff you need to do, whatever. And they were uber offended by our consult, our strategy session fee that is, all of $750.
Oh my God.
And I literally laughed
You
and I was like, start the camera so I can record this of
Right.
why your whole family's gonna think you're a fucking moron.
Right.
And you pass away and they are
Right.
stuck paying millions of dollars
Sure.
because some
And
basic planning was in the
Right.
state tax.
No,
code.
but the worst part with those people, they think they're complaining about the $750 consultation fee.
Imagine.
And then they think
Imagine.
you're going to be able to resolve it in the $750. And I go, no, it doesn't work like that.
No,
Just
no.
to get my feet wet for me to have the conference.
Right. This is for me to chat with you.
Chat with
Because
you.
I love
Okay.
you, Clay, but I don't chat with you for fun.
For fun.
Like, this is what I do for a living, right?
And
So,
it's yeah, but those I find, if they're complaining about the fee, the initial consultation, something reasonable like that, then I say it's better not even to deal with that.
oh
client.
no, I mean that's a non-starter.
Obviously,
That's a
exactly.
non-starter. my
Yeah,
friend.
I mean, if you were to say, "Oh, I want $10,000 consult," well, okay, what are you going to do? Maybe give me some now or whatever. But no, that's
give
super
me
reasonable.
a taste.
Give me a
I want a
taste.
taste of
I want
the
to taste
Ivan
what you're
Gomez
going to give
magic
me.
before
The
I give you
magic before I give you 10,000. No,
Yeah.
but it's ridiculous.
No, I mean this strategy session is almost a misnomer, guys. Let's be adults here and let's be reasonable. This is really a conversation where I get to know a little bit, and by I mean my associates at this point, get to know your family a little bit, get to understand the dynamic a little bit, because doing that kind of planning when you have a blended family is a whole nother show, right? Whole nother, surviving spouse is going to be what? The trustee, his kids hate her, and marital trust and family trust, and that's a whole nother conversation. It's getting to understand the nature of the assets that you own. It's a little different to plan for real estate than it is, the cryptocurrency, whatever nonsense people got going on, right?
Yeah.
And it's to see
account
if you
versus
can't
real
stand
estate
me.
versus operating companies, all those
Things are very different,
different.
and what we
How
could
do you have
potentially even begin to think about we're going to do. And I would say number 3, to start working with an estate tax attorney, right? This isn't set it and forget it, guys. You're going to be dealing with us for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not going to die for many years in the future because we are good luck.
Yeah,
Once you do planning with us, you live a long time.
Sure, yeah.
So if you hate me, right, if you absolutely can't stand that Leslie drops an F-bomb every now and then, or that Leslie talks a mile a minute, or whatever it is, you really got to find somebody else too. I mean, we're all very different in personality. Probably the most stark difference of personality was me and Jason. Me and Warshawski, shout out to my old partner, Jason Warshawski. Talk about two people that cannot be maybe more different just when you first meet us, right? He's a very conscientious, very serious. I mean, he's very deliberate.
Completely
what he
different
says.
personality.
Classy man.
Sure.
Classy man. I
He's a
have
great
no
guy.
interest in being classy. I have interest in telling you what's what, right? So we're very different. We're very different. If you loved probably dealing with Jason, maybe you didn't love dealing with Leslie so much, so that's what 750 is going to get you.
Right.
An hour conversation where you could just kind of see, do I want to move forward right now? Like with anything, with even a more fact finding, because now I'm going to charge you the $10,000 to even understand what the hell's going on here, right?
Yeah,
I mean, this is just going to get more involved, guys. We're just going to become more married, like, us and our clients. So that's what that's getting you. So total side note for anybody that wants to become a client of Ivan's.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is if you actually retain us within the next month, we actually give you a 30-year guarantee on your will. or trust. You won't need it, and if you actually need it, I'll give you your money back. Okay, so you can't get better than that.
Wait,
I'm telling you.
whoa, what is that?
What
does
that?
that mean?
I'm only kidding, guys. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding.
I was like, whoa, this is the best deal in the world.
The best deal in the world.
You're going to survive 30 years or your money back.
Or your money back.
But no, that's fantastic.
It's funny. Yeah.
You're buying yourself the administration. I
Right.
give you back the money you
I'll
paid
give
for
you
the will.
back for your
I
service
love
well.
that.
You see?
I
What
love
a
that.
deal.
That
What a
is
deal.
great. That
What a
is
deal.
better than any infomercial I've ever heard. So one of the other things I thought about this, that we could take this conversation, is this idea that, people think, well, if I'm being taxed by California, then I couldn't possibly be taxed by New York and vice versa, right? Whenever this is decided, whether it's New York or California or anywhere else, then, I don't owe the other state any money, right? Because this state already took all my money. So what do you want?
Yeah.
And I wanted to read out loud to our audience and for you to see how interesting these two laws, and now we're talking about income tax, guys, but just so you can see how each statute is drafted and how very quickly you could fall into both categories. And then we'll talk about the famous Mr. Campbell, or not Mr.
Sure.
Campbell soup case.
Sure.
But so in New York, generally, let's say, it is presumed that you are a resident of New York for income tax purposes. Even if you are, and let's say there's going to be no dispute, you are domiciled somewhere else, but you are hanging out in New York and you've maintained any place of abode. You don't got to own it. You could have a lease in New York just because you're like, hey, I visit there every now and then and I want a place to stay that's mine and money's not really the biggest issue. So I lease an apartment in New York. So if you have a lease that's more than 11 months, which is obviously New York trying to be real cute since every lease is a year,
It's a
right?
year. I was gonna
That's
say.
clearly them trying to be just as, slick. And then, so you have this lease and you've spent more than 184 days in New York in any given year. Now, New York is going to have a much tougher time than like the IRS, right? With our non-residents where there's a passport that's getting click, 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 click. You know?
Right.
New York, I guess if
Yeah,
you're
it's
in New
more
Jersey and you
difficult.
drive over the bridge and, I wasn't here. Don't put on your Facebook account that you were hanging out at whatever fancy restaurant in New York too often, just keep it on the down low. And you weren't there. Nobody can prove that you were there. But theoretically, 184 days and a lease. You don't even got to own anything. And you are paying all your taxes in New York, income taxes, of money you made anywhere. New York will say, you owe us. You have to file a tax return here and owe us. And then we'll figure out those credits, on the back end. But you got to file here. Versus California, which is also just as cute. They got just as cute because they said, hey, you're a resident. Even if you were domiciled elsewhere. I love how they wrote that into the statutes, right?
Yeah.
We don't care where you're domiciled. You are a resident in California if you are physically present in our state for more than 9 months. Period. And that to me sounded like they tried to get cute because that means that any actor, I don't know, famous or, pajarito, whatever, that's there, I guess, filming anything for any real period of time
is going to get
is going to be taxed on. Now, maybe you go, Leslie, the money that's being made is probably from the acting gig, so it's California
regardless
source money regardless, right?
Yeah.
But California puts this cute 9-month thing, and I don't know, maybe some actuary, in the back room that was, working 24/7, getting pizza under the door, said most gigs are 10 months.
Yeah, probably.
If we can make the law 9 months, we got everybody filing taxes here, So I don't really know where the 9-month thing came from.
Right, but you're right. All these states, they want more, and they're trying to figure out what can they do in order to get more revenue.
Right.
And that's it. We don't have that issue in Florida.
No, we have the opposite issue.
The opposite issue.
We're full. Go back.
Go back.
We have the opposite issue of moving here, I guess Texas has that issue too of people moving from California to, and that is on the income tax side.
Right.
And that actually seems like a hard and fast rule, right? That your clients probably like. Even though they're like, this is bullshit. But it's a real rule.
Yeah. Makes
Well,
it
guess,
easier.
as you already alluded to, on the domiciliary side for estate tax purposes, the rule is very fluffy. It's very, where are you? Where do you intend to reside?
Sure.
Where's the boat? Where do you vote? Where are the kids? Maybe your spouse hates you, but where does she live? And we even have a very famous case. I don't remember what state they were coming from, but it was they had moved to Texas, and the whole thing was determined on where were the kids and the dog. And the kids, they didn't want to pull them out of school during the year. But that wasn't determinative. It was more, the judge went on and on about the dog never moved, guys. The dog never made it to Texas, okay? Floofy, Fleefy and Floofy or whatever. I just see these as two obnoxious chihuahuas, right? These two obnoxious chihuahuas stayed in whatever state. Pick one. New York, New Jersey, it was one of the high tax states. And the judge was like, man, everything else being equal, because they couldn't decide otherwise, Floofy was still, so I'm not buying it. I'm not buying that you actually moved to Texas. It reminds me of a similar but different case in the international side of the boat. You claim to be whatever, and at this point I don't remember if it was actually domiciled in the U.S. or not. It was a non-resident type case and again, we could go on with the $60,000, anything more than that for a non-resident, you're going to be paying a shit ton of taxes for U.S. situs property. And the determination came down on the boat was parked here in Florida. I believe it was in Fort Lauderdale somewhere. So it wasn't in the Miami, you would have thought it was in Miami with hookers and coke and brickle, but no. This was a gentleman who had a boat and whatever a little bit farther north. And that was highly scrutinized, that this boat sits here all the time. And you can actually, there are very good records about how often you take out your boat, when it's not parked by your house, when it's parked at the marina.
So. Yeah, you're right.
Right?
I would think so.
These are all questions of fact. And I don't know about your clients, Ivan, but I assume they're a lot like, mine. And they all go, what? They look at you like you got 5 heads when you tell them, this could turn on where's the boat and where's the dog.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. The big thing that my clients will always say is who's going to know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Who's going to know?
Oh, you know who knows? Your neighbor.
Your neighbor, your spouse, your
ex-employee,
the marina, any number of people. They find out. So
and it's like we always say, right? Guys, when you're poor, nobody gives a shit.
Exactly.
Okay? Literally, nobody gives a shit. But the second you make it worth someone's while to start, i.e. the IRS or the New York taxing authority or whoever, you get one of these, ambitious agents or anyone that, it's worth, the juice is worth the squeeze now.
Sure.
It's not that hard to acquire these facts, believe it or not. It's not that hard to remember. The IRS is one of the only, I shouldn't say one of the only agencies, but they have powers that other creditors can only dream of. Exactly. And one of those is they don't actually have to open litigation against you to have kind of subpoena power. To start sending little canticas to people and be like, please tell me how many times Mr. Smith took out that boat. Right? Exactly. They don't need to actually have the power to send out discovery. Sure, exactly. They can send out discovery, and people see a letter from the IRS and they about shit their pants and they answer it, Exactly. The guy at the marina is not going to jail for you, babe. He does not care about you or your boat. Right?
But but that could also be a good podcast for another day. IRS collection, IRS procedure.
Oh, man.
Like that. I think that would be really
interesting. All of our good case law, right, on the asset protection side, really comes from very limited places. And I would say bankruptcy.
Sure.
Motherfuckers that they are. These trustees are very creative and aggressive, and they have every incentive to be, right? Even much more so, I would say, than the IRS in a way. The trustees themselves have great incentive to come after you.
Oh, absolutely.
And the IRS has powers one can only dream of, right? And I get your other super creditors, your spouse in a divorce or alimony or whatever situation, right? But these are where all of our body of case law of oh man, look how bad this went, how this turned out. That's where, so you're absolutely right. That could be many, many podcasts, many, many podcasts, because these people, Yeah, I mean, when you have the federal government against you, it's not fun. It's not fun, right?
I'm just giving myself an invitation to you.
You're coming back,
I'm
Ivan.
coming
You
back.
got it. No, of course. I mean, what's...
No, you don't have to. It's up to you.
No, what do you mean? Are you kidding? I'm
Okay.
like, this is the gateway. You know,
The gateway.
The problem is that Ivan's office is very nearby, so he can't escape me.
Yeah.
I see him on the street as I go to
see her.
lunch,
Yes,
you
that's
know. I'm
right,
like,
that's
Ivan,
right.
my podcast,
Hey,
get
yeah,
out here,
yeah,
you know. So no, I really thank you for being here, Ivan.
Sure,
I
no,
really
thank you so much for the
appreciate it. You
invitation.
guys don't know, you know, Ivan is a very big deal. He, you know, he's a very humble, you know,
thank
very
you, thank
humble attorney. Ivan is very well known. You know, this is like legacy attorney over here. Like,
Oh, thank
you know, everyone in town knows you, Ivan.
Thank you.
And so let's get into the, I keep calling him Mr. Campbell. That's not his name. It is the guy that started the Campbell Soup.
Right.
And he actually started Campbell Soup, you know, early last century. I laugh because it's like, oh my God, I was born in the last century, reported the last century. That sounds so awful. Like the last century. Like I'm going through a crisis at 40, you know, of like, oh my God, I'm old. I'm getting old.
Okay, listen. Yeah.
You're
let's
only
not-
a few years older
I'm
than
only
me.
a few years
You're
old.
only a few years older than
Remember,
me,
I'm
so
only
you
a
know
couple
how that
years.
feels.
I know how it feels.
You know how that
I went through
feels.
that a couple of years ago.
Yes,
I
I
know.
understand. And so, you know, he is the founder of Campbell's Soup.
Okay.
And the original, and the reason that it's not just that he got so rich because he made soup. Apparently, he's the guy that was like, if you can this shit, it lasts forever. You know, it doesn't go bad. It doesn't, he has some technology here that he made the canned soup thing a thing. Like before him, there was no go to the grocery store
Yeah, I
and
remember.
see
Yeah.
soup. So it's not just that Campbell's soup was so delicious. It's that he was the only one. Like he's the guy that did it. And he died in 1930 and he physically passed away inside of New Jersey. So death certificate says New Jersey, right? Which I know that sounds silly, but that is sometimes a very interesting determining factor of like, as you're passing away, where did that happen?
Yeah,
Because
take
unless
me-
you just like got run over,
Exactly.
you know, you were just crossing the street one day and got run over.
Take the hearse and take it over across the line.
Yeah, usually people end up, you know,
Uh-huh.
end of life and da-da-da-da-da and passing away. And so, you know, Miss Rivers over here, one thing would have been if she would have flown to New York, to, you know, because she loves that doctor and she's got more money than God, so I can choose any doctor.
Exactly.
And I happen to die on the operating table. Well, that's, you know, neither here nor there.
Right.
This guy did not die from vocal cord surgery.
Right, exactly.
He ended up passing away in New Jersey in 1930. So, but before that, 5 years before he passed away, his family and theoretically him had moved to Pennsylvania.
Right.
They loved, I mean, I'm from New York, so I could talk shit about New Jersey all day. Like, who wants to live in New Jersey? Of course you moved to Pennsylvania. Like, anything is better than New Jersey. Haha, whatever. So I can come up with a lot of reasons why you want to live in Pennsylvania, just because I like to bash New Jersey. But regardless, Campbell's Soup Company didn't move, right? It's still in New Jersey. And even though this is no spring chicken here, I mean, this is not a 40-year-old when he passes away, the business is still in New Jersey and he's still the president of the business. I mean, like most of our clients, they never actually, you know, they think they're going to live forever. And
Of course,
they don't. They don't let go of their baby. Some of the other facts is the business stayed in New Jersey. He voted in the last election at that time in New Jersey. When would that have been? I guess before 1930. So, well, interesting. He otherwise directed and indicated his intentions in various letters and verbally to people about how he loved being in New Jersey and would always want to stay in New Jersey. Shut your mouth, people. You think your neighbors won't? Echate pa'lante. Watch this, right? So after he died, you know, the estate wanted to be, you know, taxed in New Jersey, and New Jersey had an estate tax back in 1930 that was going to be the equivalent of about $12 million in tax if he was domiciled in New Jersey, right? So this is all well and good, but guess what? The estate of Pennsylvania comes forward first and says, and since I could just imagine, like, this is 1930, like the letter from the taxing authority of Pennsylvania came in like horse and buggy. Like,
I can imagine.
here we go, you know, like with a letter that says, you family owe us the equivalent of $12 million or whatever it is. That was going to be the difference, actually. So more than that. Because just the difference was going to be $12 million. And they hand the letter to, I'm just like, this is my Lifetime movie. They hand the letter to surviving spouse, and surviving spouse goes, are you kidding me? No, John never really wanted to move here. He stayed in New Jersey. The man, you know, I always wanted him to be with me, but he's a workaholic and he stayed in New Jersey with a stupid soup company and did everything there. So why are you handing me this letter?
Right. He never liked me nor the kids or anything like that.
I could just see it,
See
right?
it.
Like, can you imagine what it takes to get something like that? Me as a Jarito business owner here is like, I can only imagine what it takes to get off the ground, something new.
Sure.
I'm thinking distributor contracts to the grocery stores of a product that's never existed, trying to convince people this soup is going to survive, you know, the apocalypse. It never goes bad and nobody believes you. Nobody wants to eat it, right? And then it blows up and now you have a bigger problem maybe because now you got to produce it in. I'm just thinking the lifespan of a business owner that gets to that level and what it takes, right? So I could just see the spouse. I'm inventing a whole soap opera here. I can see the spouse like, screw this, I'm not paying this. He was still in New Jersey when he died, goddammit, even though I lived in Pennsylvania with the kids and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so she gets a lawyer. We're not paying. You know, we're suing. We're not paying. They lose. It gets appealed. They lose again. They owe Pennsylvania a lot of money. The court disagreed. Here we go. And they paid $17 million to Pennsylvania. That's what they owed Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
What happens? New Jersey now, because, you know, we don't know what the statute of limitations here was, because New Jersey was all quiet on the Western Front this whole time, right? They were like watching the drama unfold in Pennsylvania. And somebody in New Jersey, smart guy, I imagine, said, wait a minute, this case is like done for me. If I just pull all the pleadings and the transcripts from this case in Pennsylvania, we have like the perfect case against the family for why they owe us estate taxes. Like, right? Like why he was domiciled in New Jersey and they owe us estate taxes. And now the wife, I can just see is like, her head's exploding. Right? Or like,
two places?
Like, are you kidding me? I just paid these assholes all this money because some judge, many judges, this got appealed all those times, and now you guys want to come get money too? That's unconstitutional. This is unfathomable. This is un-American. This is, I can just see, you know, everyone very upset. Well, guess what? They lost at the trial level. They appealed. They lost at the appellate level. And what do? We want the U.S. Supreme Court to, you know, I could just see this as like, I want the Supreme Court to tell one of these two children to stop it. Like I cannot possibly owe both of these people money, right? Both of these taxing authorities money. Well, the U.S. Supreme Court said, this is already a decided issue. We don't need to decide this. There is no constitutional violation whatsoever. You can be double taxed. You know, the murder, I was already convicted of murder. I can't be convicted of murder again. So they said there's nothing for us to decide, us U.S. Supreme Court. We got better cases. I'm sure the Supreme Court said we got better cases to deal with. An established area of law, which says that, yes, you could be liable under the two different states, whatever, statutes and regulations and cases to pay taxes in both states. And apparently this is a famous law school case that I did not learn in law school. Maybe this is a case that was taught before my time. I don't know. I'm still spring chicken here.
Me too.
You too. So before your time too.
Before my time.
Right? But this is apparently the quintessential case that has an egregious outcome for poor Mrs. Campbell Soup, you know, and the children of Campbell Soup. I'm assuming the wife was still alive here, guys. Maybe the wife had also passed away and it was the children dealing with this. But I thought this was actually fascinating. I'd never heard of this case. And I have never, in my little measly 15 years of being a lawyer, I have never seen this. I have never come across this again. I've never heard another attorney talk about this. I've never gone to lunch with you, Ernie, and Jason, and you're like, you're not going to believe what's going on with my client. You know, like I have never heard this again. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, have you heard that? And I know you're only, a few more years than I am,
but I haven't either. I haven't. It's not something that I normally go,
Right. So it almost seems like the taxing authorities have gotten more empathetic and lenient and really care about equity.
I don't know. Give me a break.
How cute.
Are we living in Never Land? Okay.
Leslie, did you fall and hit your head?
I think so. You fall and hit your head. I mean, that's my thing. I ride my bike and I hit my head every once in a while. But
yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just concerned that, I don't know. Maybe there would be such ridiculous litigation.
Sure.
I think these days if that tried to happen.
But
I mean, I'm imagining there was then too.
I mean, what I think, if someone has an issue that they could be taxed in a couple of jurisdictions, and it's always important to file a tax return in that other jurisdiction and say, hey, I'm filing my tax return.
Right.
Here it is.
This is my position.
This is my position.
Kick
I don't
rocks.
know any. Yeah, I don't know any money, and that's it. So at least it starts the statute of limitations
That's
going
right.
on potential assessment.
That is right. Very, very important. And, even more so because a lot of people just feel like, oh, I don't need to worry about it, right? Or I'll do whatever and then hide. And they don't realize that when you don't do anything, you're leaving the window open.
Oh, yeah.
You're leaving, wait a minute. 10 years later, somebody, some ambitious agent is like, what happened here? Like,
you're right. But unfortunately, I tell sometimes my clients that I'll say, hey, let's file the return, take the position, not necessarily in this area,
sure,
but in others. But they don't want to do that because they don't want to ruffle any feathers. We don't want to look. I'm hiding, and I don't want anybody to find me. But I mean, that's worse.
That's worse in our world, I think, because things take a lot of time.
Sure.
I mean, I have 706s that I filed years ago that I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. We haven't heard anything, and that's very strange, right? But if you don't do anything, you're just leaving this window open. And if you do, we have this very limited time that the government needs to get their shit together and actually come forward and say that they don't agree with what your position is and whatever. So you actually probably have a better chance of getting away with it.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you file, because no one is actually looking at it, you're setting a return. There's a better chance that you'll get away with it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to obviously fully disclose the situation.
Of course. What did we start with? The pigs get fat, guys.
Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered.
Don't go crazy. Don't go crazy. But absolutely. And I think especially nowadays, we have a little bit maybe more turmoil these days with the federal government agencies being funded or not, or government shutdown, or take early retirement. Well, we're living in strange times at the moment. So there is something to say to take advantage of inefficiency.
Inefficiency, right? Absolutely.
Yes. And this is coming straight from the IRS agent, ex-IRS agent's mouth. You have to avail yourself of every potential upside here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yes. Good. Very good. So, but I want to play What Would Judge Ivan Do?
Okay.
Yeah, I play this with a few of my contestants. I did this with Ernie the attorney with regards to Robin Williams' estate.
Okay.
And I found out that Ernie the attorney is very anti-surviving spouse. I was very offended.
Oh, really?
I was very offended.
Oh,
I had to take the opposite position to defend Miss Williams.
Interesting.
Like this was ridiculous.
Interesting.
So, but it's interesting what you find out about your friends in this context, So,
go ahead.
Let's give you some facts. It seems like nothing is disputed until the early 90s because everything that Joan had declared in any public record, any tax filing, any filing whatsoever, said that her residency was New York before 1990. And then at some point, she started doing more things that led her to be, I guess, the stand-up or different gigs that led her to be going back and forth from New York to California. by, it looks like the 2000s, she's more time in California. Particularly by 2010s, she's actually on a reality TV show with her daughter and on another show called Fashion Police. I guess Miss Rivers was extremely fashionable. And she was also on a reality TV show with her daughter, which was called Joan Knows Best, which kind of makes me think her daughter must be a celebrity too of some sort. It looks like, and these shows are being filmed in California, right? So now she's in California, certainly for income tax purposes.
No, for income tax purposes, for
9
sure.
months in a day, baby.
That's
California's got you. California's got you, you know? And so that's that. But Judge Gomez, does it change your mind at all that her only place of residence and I mean residence not in the tax term, like physical, like where she would stay, was Melissa's spare bedroom in her house. Like Joan never decided to buy her own house, not even lease
I think that's super important.
Her own space. But apparently on this show, in this Mother Knows Best, Joan Knows Best, that aired in early 2014, and the name of the episode was Please Get the Fuck Out, where it says Joan was actually plotting to annoy Melissa so much that Melissa would kick her out of the house so she could go back to New York.
Yeah.
So here you also have not just the fact that Joan has not purchased a property and is living in a spare bedroom.
Right.
She's actually so annoyed at the fact that she has to do this. She's like, maybe if I could get thrown out, that I could go back
home
to my penthouse in New York, right? And now to add to the, again, I don't know what's going on with the guy in New York who never kind of decided to use any of these facts against the estate. But there is also a quote now in mid-2014, so all in the time right before she died, in the Daily Beast, saying that, and he was asking her, I guess, very funny, like, hey, why do you continue working if you don't want to do this show with your daughter? You're rich enough, you know, stop it. Like, and she said, look, I don't have money to retire. I mean, this is an interesting mindset. I don't have money to retire. I mean, sure, I could pool all my money and live okay, but I don't want to live okay. I want to live really happy life in my penthouse.
Okay.
My house is in New York.
In New York.
And I want to pick up my own check and I want to have a great life and maybe even be able to spread my wealth a little bit. And that speaks to her charitable endeavors, most of which also was going on in New York. And that was the last statement that they have before she died, actually, because she died shortly thereafter that. So interesting, something that started 5 seconds ago as in California all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, living in California, working in California, has the show being filmed in California and everything else. Now we have a few facts here and there that chip away at the California domicile statement that they are trying to pull. I mean, this to me gives me like visions of bankers' boxes and litigation is what it gives to me, because look how factual we're getting, right?
Yeah,
some silly quote in some periodical.
And that's what happens. You actually, start putting in all that information, and then the judge makes that determination.
Right. In this case, it really was up to somebody in New York. To be like, hey, why has no estate tax return been filed here for Joan Rivers? And to send, no more horse and buggy, certified mail overnight, baby. Like you owe us gazillion dollars, Melissa. And for Melissa to lawyer up and go, no, I don't, I, as the administrator of my mother's estate, claim domiciliary in California, like my mom was domiciled here. And it looks like that never happened. And, interesting. We can speculate as to why that never happened. But regardless, Judge Gomez, if you were you didn't work for California or New York, because if you work for either one of those, we know how you decide. We know how you decide. I mean, obviously, you know who runs pays your payroll. But
I would say,
what would you think? What would you think?
I think you've laid some interesting facts. Okay, the law here is quite complicated.
It is.
It's really a factual-based determination.
Yes.
And I'd like for both parties to submit briefs
That's-
so I can take it under consideration.
That is
I'll
the
be
right answer.
And I'll be issuing
And it
an
depends.
order. It depends. I'll be issuing an order within 30 days.
30 days. Oh,
Yeah,
you're a very
I'm very
hardworking
hardworking judge.
Wow,
I
30
mean,
days.
30 days.
That's unheard of.
No, I know. I was
30
going to say
days.
three or 4 months at least, or a year.
At least.
A year.
Maybe. We got
But
to
I'm a hard
wait.
worker.
We got to call the
But I
office,
know.
talk
You
to
gotta-
JA
But you also have
14 times.
But you have to do another podcast. in 30 days, that's why.
Yes,
Okay.
that's true. That's true.
Oh.
Excellent. Funny enough, that is exactly. Nothing ever gets decided on, hey, this is my facts, this is my pleading, this is all the discovery, this is, go, judge. No. None of that ever happens. It takes forever.
I used to represent the IRS in tax court. In the old days, and it's still 90% of the time, okay, the court hears testimony. Let's say they have what they call like a circuit. Let's say they'll come down to Miami, hear the case, and then the judge will hear the testimony, and then actually there's a transcript. They go back to D.C. And they'll render an opinion afterwards. And then in the old days, okay, they couldn't even rule from the bench. It was not allowed. And then what they do, they changed the law to make it like on small cases, the judge could actually rule from the bench because it wasn't even allowed for a judge to rule from the bench. So it was interesting. So all the times you would have to kind of go back to D.C. and then issue. I mean, sometimes on simple cases, the rulings came down.
The obvious ones.
The
maybe.
obvious ones. They go, okay, yeah, this is it. So, but it's interesting.
Well, you're a very hardworking.
I'm a hardworking
very hardworking
judge.
judge.
So
very organized.
Very organized.
You got all your JAs, researching
Exactly.
and actually know about the case, and you're going to
That's
issue
right.
an opinion in
I'm
30
gonna-
days.
30 days.
Wow. Wow,
So,
excellent. Everybody wants to be in this court.
Huh.
So you'll get back to us on
I'll
what you
get back
think.
to you with. Yeah.
You'll get back to us on what you think. And of course, we're being very cheeky, but the reality is that,
I mean, there's a
the wheels of justice turn slowly.
slowly. But I mean, New York has a good argument. Okay. They do.
I, Judge Marenco,
Okay.
would have thought that this is prime for the taking. I absolutely am
agree.
coming after this estate.
Yeah. I would have said.
I'm also
hey,
a
wait
New
a minute,
Yorker,
she
so
says-
maybe I'm biased.
Exactly. You could be biased, but no, I agree. Okay.
Yes.
She makes all those statements. She doesn't have a real physical location other than the.
Sounds like
her
she's
daughter.
missing her penthouse.
She's missing the penthouse.
She misses the penthouse
Yeah.
in New York. She wants to hang
Did
out.
she, during that period of time, how often did she go back to New York?
Yes,
Do you know?
she was back in
was.
New York. There's some testimony about her being at the tea room,
Okay.
and that surgery happened in New York.
Oh, the surgery
And the
happened
surgery was happening in New York. So her
Okay.
preferred doctors are also in New
in New
York.
York.
And
But
that
when she
might just
actually
be-
passed away, but
She
was
did in New York.
In New York?
In New
Yeah.
York. Yeah.
I would, hey,
New York.
I'm New York. I'm saying, hey, she had the surgery in New York.
Now-
She wanted the best. She said, now that's her home.
You know,
she
and
wanted her
Even
doctor.
this choice of doctor, look how interesting this is. Like, maybe, and this would be testimony, right?
Sure.
Is it because the choice of doctor in New York, just because all of her doctors are in New York?
York.
Her
Yeah, it could have been.
this doctor, her cardiologist, everything, and they're the ones going, this is our favorite ENT surgeon or whatever,
Exactly.
and that's how she ends up with this guy. Or was it that the doctor in California said the best
Guy. Well,
for your
that's
vocal
true.
cords is in
It's
New York,
in New
and
York.
she's just there
Yeah.
temporarily for the
Temporarily.
surgery,
Yeah,
like
that's
it's
true.
a very different, because your primary is the one that refers you to your
Exactly.
whatever and refers you to the whatever, and that's your network. That's what I mean. That's
Yeah,
where I guess
yeah.
I'm getting at. Is your network in New York, which is
Right.
why you ended up with this doctor,
This doctor.
or was it just look, the best guy for the
best
vocal
guy
cords is
happens
there.
to be in New York.
Yeah,
I think it makes a difference.
it makes
Yeah.
a difference.
Sure,
I
of
think
course.
it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So I know we could talk forever. I mean,
Sure.
I could talk forever, Ivan. So,
Well, I can too.
any final word? This is without alcohol, people.
Yeah.
Because Ivan is very healthy.
No. I think it.
Any final?
Well, the only thing I was going to say, I think it's really important for clients to go ahead and get appropriate counsel
Absolutely.
before they do, they undertake any planning, and then go in with your eyes open and and try to follow the directions of their counsel,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully, you'll be able to, whatever argument you can go ahead and have, you'll be able to present that.
And, like, I'm sure, divorce attorneys, I hear this all the time, tell their clients, like, don't go posting stupid shit on social
Oh,
media
yeah, I
about the
think
new girlfriend and
I
about the
think
money
it's
you're blowing
horrible.
on
Yeah,
whatever and da-da-da-da. Believe it or not, I mean, now people can track you. I mean, I can
they
only
track
imagine
you
if you
all the
subpoena
time.
my iPhone,
Yeah.
it knows where I've been every
Yeah.
moment of the day, although I tend to lose this iPhone and leave it everywhere. So maybe not the best way to hunt me down, but most people are not like that. And most people want to be connected to the rest of the world.
Sure,
You can't even,
sure.
I mean, people know this about me. You can't even call me.
I know, but
you know?
I'm like old school. I don't have Facebook.
Smart man.
I don't have Twitter.
Because a
or
lot of good
X
it's
or
going
whatever
to
it is.
do
None of that
to
stuff.
try to say that,
No.
you're never in New York
Yeah.
when we could just pull all your
Exactly.
Instagram
Exactly.
history and see that all you do is parade around the city,
Right,
and here you
exactly.
are at the new bagel shop and here you are at Kat's Deli and here you are
Sure,
at whatever.
sure.
And now you're just giving up the evidence. Mr. Campbell's Soup over here didn't have those problems.
Sure,
He
of course.
didn't have the tickety talk. He wasn't dancing in Times Square where that could be tracked,
Sure, exactly.
And nowadays people absolutely
Sure.
do. And if you think that, the ambitious
Sure.
agents in New York isn't going to go find that information easily, you are very mistaken.
Yeah.
And what is it?
Sure.
Once it's on the internet, it's always on the
That's
internet.
it, that's
It
it.
can't be erased, that's all.
But I was going to say, Leslie, thank you so much for allowing me
Thank
to
you,
participate
Ivan.
with you.
Oh,
It's been a really great
he's
experience.
so gracious. He's
No,
gonna
it's a great-
he's never gonna answer my call again. He's just like, I'm not doing this ever again.
No. I thought it was. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good.
I really
interesting
appreciate
thing. I
you
appreciate
coming
it.
up.
Anytime. you
Oh,
can do
you
it.
heard it here, folks.
Okay.
You heard it here. He said anytime.
Right.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you very much for real. So I will be harassing you again.
Right.
And for all of you, our podcast audience, remember, whether you're a celebrity or not, you must plan ahead and get good counsel to protect yourself, your family, your assets, your money, and everything else. Follow us on the Tickety Talk and the Instagram and the Facebook, which Ivan just said he does not have, but we will link all of his information.
I'm going to have to go ahead and enroll in all those things just
yeah?
to be able to follow you.
Oh, wow. No, we're on YouTube. You can watch us on YouTube, Spotify,
That one I do.
Apple.
On YouTube, I do have it. Okay, I do have
But
YouTube.
we will link all of your information. So if anybody wants to reach out to Ivan,
Okay.
his information will be somewhere below, above, wherever it is that you are listening to us.
Yeah, if you need any information, you're a great source, and you have all the answers. So
Oh, wow.
you don't need to go any further than that.
None of us have all the answers.
Well,
I promise you that. But I do have an aggressive litigation department.
Yes.
No. So
Great.
see you next time, everyone,
Great.
with Having Fun with Death and Taxes.
Great, thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you.